Fruitvale. It's kind of busy here. I'll just get the directors to introduce themselves, starting with Frank.
Frank Moreno, Mayor of Warfield.
Ali Grieve, Area A.
Mike Walsh, Mayor of Montrose.
Andy Morel, Mayor of Roslyn and Chair of Regional District.
Terry.
Oh, me.
Gallon.
Hi, Terry Martin, Councillor, City of Trail.
Linda Worley, Area B Director.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order at 10:30. I'll do the land acknowledgement. In the spirit of respect, truth, and reconciliation. We honor and thank the Indigenous peoples on whose traditional and unceded lands we operate. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda? Terry? Andy, thank you. Agenda adopted. Minutes. The minutes of the February 18, 2025 East End Service Committee are presented. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes? Linda and Terry second. Anybody opposed? Okay, carried. Okay, delegation. Fire Service Advocacy Group, Dave Laverato. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
And Andrew Espenhine.
Hi, yes.
Okay.
Heard this thing is flashing. Good morning, everybody. My name is Andrew Espenhine. I'm a Juneau resident on our newly formed fire advisory group. I am also an active member of Station 373, although I'm here today as a resident and concerned member of the community. Dave here. Here's the
Dave Laverato. I'm not a long-term resident of Juneau. I moved there and I bought property there in 2006, moved in 2011 there. And I'm just here as a member of the community and wish to speak on the matter.
We're here today to talk about the decision to close the Juneau Fire Station and how it's impacting the community and what the community is doing about it. The crisis that Juneau is facing right now is that on February 12th, our firehouse closure was announced without what we feel is adequate community consultation ahead of that. No meaningful effort was made to engage the residents before this decision was made. The community was told that it was being closed due to staffing shortages, but this decision was made before any other solutions were explored within the community. Just over 4 weeks, the community stepped up, proven that we have a commitment, proven we've got the people to keep our fire hall open. This matters to the residents of Juneau more than some people realize. I believe some of you do realize it. Residents will keep paying the fire service taxes to regional fire, while at the same time facing skyrocketing insurance costs. And we're talking thousands of dollars per household. The numbers we're looking at here are astronomical. It is going to be too much for some of our community members. These rates will leave properties uninsured. We have a lot of fixed income households that just simply will not be able to pay this. They will forego their house insurance because of this. My belief is that long-term reliance on Trail Fire coming out is somewhat unrealistic. I do know they have a track record of showing up and they do a great job when they're there. But when we have major emergencies, multiple emergencies in the region, this takes away a critical resource of response capacity. Whether we have 5 firefighters or 25, having a truck, having a station, having some people out at that geographic location is imperative to protecting people. Community resilience and disaster preparedness will be weakened. Our community will be more vulnerable than it is today. There's a lot going on in the world in the political spectrum right now. There's a lot of people concerned of what that could mean in the future. Having response capacity within our community is important for that. Fire service, all emergency services, are a core pillar of public safety. Juneau's just on that verge, community size-wise. We're not an official community. We're not incorporated. We're not at that level, but we're close. We have the resident base comparable to other small towns. Taking away core pillars of the services that are offered there, it'll it'll undo the community that we have. It'll start to unravel the rest of it. People will be making choices of whether they want to live there, whether they want to move there. The other part of this is it sets a dangerous precedent. You close this fire hall, what about the rest of them? How many of these other fire halls need to exist if Janelle doesn't need to exist? How do we get to this point where we're sitting here talking today? The community wasn't consulted before this decision was made. The community was never asked to be part of the solution in a meaningful way. Staffing has been brought up as the key issue here, but recruitment challenges have solutions. They weren't fully explored in the past in Janelle. The current application process is 27 pages. There's a recruit package, there's an application package. It's 27 pages of material for somebody who wants to volunteer their time in their community. I've been in the fire service for quite a while, different capacities. Scaring volunteers away with this package does not put firefighters in our fire halls. It does not get people to volunteer their time. The recent recruiting efforts have had limited hiring windows each year. Short period of time. We don't get a chance to grab somebody's interest when it peaks, and when they show up at the door, they get kind of pushed off to once a year to apply. In the past, there's been this unwritten retirement age of 60. Many people have got close to the 60 age and essentially been kind of pushed towards retirement out the door. It's been clarified that that's not an official rule that has to be followed, but it has forced many experienced firefighters out a lot earlier than they would have otherwise. Valuable members of these teams that could have been there for mentorship and other support roles and continue to help the fire hall survive. There are other rural fire service models in the province of BC. There are other halls that function well, that are successful. Why weren't any of these other alternatives considered for Janelle besides just deciding that it's not going to work the way we're doing it? Janelle is actively researching some of these options. If we get the opportunity, we intend to bring them forward and try to implement them in Janelle to help the hall be more successful. The community stepped up dramatically through this. All volunteer organizations thrive on strong leadership. We know that given the chance, Janelle Fire Hall can be rebuilt and be very strong. We've learned that from the community in the last 4 weeks. We've solved the community engagement problem that got us here. We found some tools that work. We've held our own public meetings. We've put out signs around town. We've done door-to-door flyer campaigns, email distribution lists, social media outreach. We know that we have a community that there's no 1 or 2 ways gets the message out to them. We've got to find 20 ways to get the same message to reach most of the people. It is a ton of work, but it is well worth it to have a fire hall in our town. The community stepped up in response to this. Potential firefighters have already put their name forward. They're ready to apply. I've held some meetings with the majority of them so far. They are eager people. They want to. Many of them have other fire service experience. They want to be part of our fire hall and make it succeed. We've got our Janelle Fire Advisory Group that's sort of leading the charge on this. We've got a Friends of Janelle support group that's formed as the support group, the auxiliary group that's providing extra help and resources. Last week, in preparation for this meeting, we had a group of people in 2 days go around door to door in town, collecting signatures on a petition that I believe has been presented, or you have it to present today. We've proven we have community support to have a fire service in our town. Our request is pretty simple. We're asking for a fair chance to save our fire hall. We're asking for an opportunity to recruit and train new volunteers and firefighters to keep our hall open. We're asking for a chance for the community to work with regional leadership to establish a sustainable model. We know some things need to change. Let's change them and keep it running. We're asking for the necessary time to prove the community's long-term commitment. The commitment to being a firefighter, to being a volunteer firefighter, is a big commitment. That's why I've met with a number of these potential applicants to talk about that commitment and what it means. It isn't for everybody, but it is for a lot of the people that have put their names forward. This isn't about just keeping a fire hall open. This is about keeping Janelle safe. keeping our residents safe. We have a clear plan for the ongoing operation of the Janelle Fire Station. We're focusing on community recruitment. We've identified 33 potential applicants. 33 people who put their name forward is interested in applying. We expect more. We're still working on outreach to more people and more of our recruiting campaign. So we expect that number to go up of people who are interested in applying. We formed the Janelle Fire Advisory Group. We have a dedicated 14-member advisory group whose function is to provide essential support for recruitment, retention, and communication. This last month, most of it's been focused on the communication. It's been a lot of work to get this message out to our community. We recognize that. We know it's hard, but we've been doing it. We formed the Friends of Janelle support group, a passionate group of 25 residents whose job is to instill pride and unity in our community, inspiring both our volunteer firefighters and our residents to help continue supporting it. We've got events happening. We've got an upcoming pancake breakfast this Saturday at the Janelle Rec Hall. Free breakfast just to get the community out to talk about things, engage on this situation, talk about where we're at, where we're going next. This Friends of Janelle group is going to be doing more of these events on a regular basis just to keep the community pride and momentum moving forward. Ongoing communication. Our biggest struggle with every organization is communication. Communication will be the heart of everything we do. It's what we're about. Led by the advisory group, we're focusing on fostering stronger connections between the fire station, the community, regional authorities. We want to ensure everyone is well informed of where we're at, where we're going, what support we need to get. We're asking for the opportunity to fix this. As a community, we know we can. We've come together. This is solvable. We're asking to keep the Janelle Fire Hall open and let the community work together with regional to find the long-term solutions that'll keep it open. We have a plan. We're asking for the chance to implement it right now, immediately. We want to get to work keeping our fire hall open, hiring the volunteers, and making this good. Dave's got some thoughts about the impact. Because of my fire service roles, my passion is around the fire hall and the meaning of it. Dave's been one of the ones going door to door talking to the residents. He's got a lot more on how this is going to hurt our community and the residents.
Thank you. I'd like to thank Andrew, first of all, for putting in the hard work he's done and putting his presentation together and everything. I worked to put the presentation together, and then I looked at Andrew's presentation. He covered a lot of the points I was going to cover. So I decided to go on to speak from my heart. When I first heard of this, I was very angry. I expressed myself at the meeting. I was actually at the meeting over the park that I thought that was a waste of money. But regardless, when it came out to the fire hall, I was angry and I spoke out, and I was probably a little bit out of line. But I'm still angry about the decision. But what really hit my heart is when I was out working to get some petitions and get this thing put together. And I had the opportunity to speak to a lot of residents of Janelle. I spoke to residents that were originally involved in getting the fire hall started 30 some years ago. How it impacted them. But more importantly, I spoke to a lot of residents that aren't as financially safe as a lot of us. And when I heard a girl tell me that her insurance company has already canceled her insurance for her mobile home, and she's been getting some quotes for $4,000 to have that mobile home insured because of this impact of the thing. She says, I can hardly afford my $500 trailer rent for the rental for the lot. Never mind $4,000 extra a year for insurance. I talked to another lady that's recently been widowed, and she's been getting her insurance is basically doubled. She was offered the insurance for $4,500 a year. I mean, we're talking about $400 a month for these people to pay for insurance. Janelle is really made up of a lot of residents that are on a fixed income. A lot of residents that are young, just starting to get started in life and that. And to put a $400 cost on their living per month is going to be devastating. It's going to kill the community. It's going to hurt a lot of older people. Are going to be forced out of their homes. It's going to hurt a lot of younger people because they won't be able to get insurance on their home and won't be able to carry their mortgage, because that's one of your reasons of having insurance, is so that you have to have insurance when you have a mortgage. You can't go without it. So if you can't get insurance and can't afford it, what are you going to do? And it's a lot of these people are struggling already. I mean, it was heart-wrenching. I mean, a lot of us, a couple $1,000s a month or a year isn't going to make that big of a difference. It means we won't be able to go out and do something or I'm not going to be able to buy a washing machine or something this year. Who cares? A lot of these people, that $2,000 means putting meals on the table and keeping a roof over their head. And I think as a community, we have to go stronger and look beyond just the shutting down of the fire hall. We have to look at what's going to happen later in the community. What's going to happen to the seniors in that community when they decide to leave and their houses are uninsurable? How are they going to sell their houses? Mortgages aren't going to be available to them because we haven't got fire protection. So you can see how devastating that is to the community. And I think we really have to look deep into this. We got to look at the consequences that are going to follow. I realize that there's rules and everything, but this was, I heard about this before. Never thought much about it, honestly. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to do. That's most residents have that attitude, and I was guilty of that also. And I just see what it's going to do to a lot of people in Janelle, and it's going to be sad. It's really going to devastate the future of our little community. And Janelle is a very community-minded bunch. I mean, they've got things there that I've never seen anywhere. Their community hall, they put on things for families there all the time, and it's always free. They welcome people coming from even Castlegar and what have you, and Trail come out there to the Santa Claus thing and get kids. As long as they enroll, they get looked after. And they've always been like that. They have cards for the seniors there every Tuesdays and Thursdays, and people come from Castlegar and Trail to do that. They're always welcomed, and it's a nice community. These people won't be able to afford to even go. A lot of them won't even be able to afford. I know a lot of them are going to food banks and what have you now, and getting free meals at the church. You put another $200 a month expense on them, what's it going to do to them? It's devastating. Our taxes are been going up. We paid our taxes. I mean, it's personally, it won't affect me that much. A few $1,000s a year, who cares? But the majority of the people I talked to when I was out knocking on doors, it's going to be devastating to them.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be just find it in your heart to leave this for a loan for at least a year and give us a chance to get it on board. It's just a disaster waiting to happen by closing this fire hall, and the impact it's going to have on community is going to be devastating also, because if we're not successful in saving this fire hall, the community is going to drift out farther out, and they're not going to be involved in a lot of the other things they're involved in. And I think that's the outcome. So I really think we have to look at not so much the closing the fire hall is no big deal. We already know that. It's not gonna make a day-to-day difference to us, but it's gonna make a day-to-day difference to a lot of the people that can't get insurance. And they're not even gonna be able to afford it. It's gonna be sad. And it's gonna affect young and old. I talked to both very young families and I talked to old families, and I mean, I'll be honest, I walked away from some of them houses almost in tears, hearing how sad of the situation they're going to be in. And I'm kind of a hard-nosed guy. I mean, I'm not that soft, but I didn't even realize some of the things that were going on in the community until I went out there and actually knocked on their doors. I mean, it was sad. Some of us are lucky we're not in that position, but there's an amazing amount of people out there that are in that position. And I think we have to find it in our hearts to do the right thing. Thank you.
I mean, the point is that the impact on this community is going to be great. We have a plan of how we can make this work. The community has stepped up. We just need your support. Keep the doors open a little longer and a chance to do this.
Okay, thank you. I'll just, any questions from the directors going around the table?
I don't have questions. I have a statement, but not a question. But I'll wait. Do everybody got to Dan speak?
Yes, thanks. Barry, any questions?
I got some questions, but I'd like to hear what the chief has to say first.
Okay, anybody else?
I'm noting on the screen that people have their hands up, but I don't believe they're
No, they're
allowed the opportunity to speak until the end.
Thank you, Andy. For the people that are online, if you have any questions, it'll be at the public part of the agenda. So I can't recognize your hand being up to ask a question until we get to that stage. Thank you. Anything else, Andy? Mike?
Just when we had recruitments, I believe it was last year in Janelle.
Yeah.
How many people came to get
To the recruiting session, I don't know. I was actually at my day job. I wasn't there. So,
Because I know, like, for instance, in Montrose, they had it for 8 hours and no one showed up.
yeah,
Troupel, Montrose. I don't know about Warfield, how they worked out there.
it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I think that's part of it is how you get that message out to the community, how that communities don't hear the message the way they used to. You can't just put a notice in the Trail Times and expect that 90% of the residents get that. You can't just put it on Facebook because that doesn't get a lot of the younger generation anymore. It actually does middle-aged, older people. You know, it's how do you get the message to everybody to actually get them there? That's the challenge. That's what we've been tackling the last 4 weeks. It has to be done differently. It has to have a ton of effort to get that out there.
I know with us, we did the signs on the highway. We had it in.
And they did in Janelle too.
Yeah.
But you know, unfortunately, sometimes people have to be slapped in the face before you get their attention. This was our slap in the face. And it definitely got the residents of Janelle's attention to the point where from no recruits or very few recruits to 33 within 30 days. And we didn't put signs out or nothing. But if people stepped forward and came to the meetings and said, well, we can help, we can do it. The same as I did.
Yeah.
I stepped up and said, I got time, I could help. I didn't really have to do this. It didn't make that big of a difference to myself. I'm very fortunate, but I did it more so because someone has to speak for the ones that can't. And I've had a lot of good things happen in my life, so I like to pass it on to other people. It's not all about, it can't always be about me.
Thank you, Dave. Ellie?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Through the chair. Andrew, you spoke about communications. I mean, that's a challenge for all of us every day, especially here. We're very aware that communications are key. We have a full-time communication officer here. But, you know, one of my pet peeves with any community is how do you choose to be informed community member? And most of them, like you've both spoken of, oh, well, it's not going to affect me today. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it today. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people choose not to be informed. One of my favorite things for communication, and we've used it for firefighter recruiting, is the old-fashioned sandwich board. that's put out there. And I just love that old fashioned simple thing. You drive by it, it's in your face. I know our chief's anxious to speak to his efforts, which I know we have made. And I'm not really looking for a response. That's just my comment. We recognize communication is important. And I love a sandwich board, and I know we've used that and other methods as well. Thank you, Chair.
Can I possibly just make one comment on that? Like, partly I agree with you. Like, absolutely, the sandwich boards are great. As part of our efforts in getting this message right now out, we have 6 sandwich boards. One of the problems with Janelle is we're not a one road town where you can put it on that highway and get everybody. Everybody comes in and out of the different intersections and lives in and works in different directions. So it's about that volume.
Thanks, Andrew. Frank?
Yeah, I want to clarify. You're asking for 1 year to be able to do this, to be able to save the fire hall.
We'd love more than that, but yes, 1 year would do it.
But the 1 year to
Prove that we
prove
can
that
make
it could
it.
actually come back.
Improve our analysis.
Yeah, man.
Well, it has to be a certain number for it to
I
actually work,
realize that.
right? And on the recruitment piece, the best people to recruit are the firefighters.
Yeah.
Talking to their friends and neighbors,
It is.
not just a comment.
It helps when you've got more than 5 of us.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Frank. Ann, over to you for your presentation. Moving on to unfinished business, item 6, Janelle Fire Station closure. Dan Derby, Regional Fire Chief, and yes.
We received the information from the,
Oh, yes. Thank you,
I'll
Linda.
move that.
Yeah, motion to receive. Thank you, Linda. Terry, in favor? Terry. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, I heard you.
No, you can interrupt me anytime I make a procedural error. That's okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today to talk about our Janelle Fire Station. The staff report that I presented in the package for the East End Services Committee really was just meant to outline that we're here to have the conversation that we're here today. And I made a commitment in front of the Janelle community in February to bring, as I said that day, the energy in the room back to this table. And so that's the piece that I'm looking to fulfill that commitment and provide some background on how we got to the decision that we got to. I'm not presenting this information from the perspective of trying to, but I'm presenting it so that people that are joining us today have some of the history of how we got to where we're at today. So I have I guess, is there any questions on the staff report before I get to the presentation?
I prefer you go straight in presentation.
Okay. I will share my screen here.
Yeah.
Sharing it out. I can do this back up. I think you might be backing me up, Mark. You can do that if you'd like. It's not recognizing my presentation to come on the screen. Sorry. I can do that. My apologies.
Technology at its best.
Yeah, that's why we always have that. So, coming out of the pandemic times, we started to notice an increasing number of calls in the Janelle community specifically that were that had no response. And you know, in talking to the members that were there at the time, the feeling was that part of that no response was driven by people that lived in the community but worked outside the community, and the impact that had on their ability to respond. So in 2022, we actually started to track the data across all of our 6 stations, or specifically the 5 Paid On Call stations, on what that looks like. And what we found is that 78% of our calls in the Janelle area were going unanswered from the Janelle station in the 2022 to 2024 timeframe. And inversely to that, the other four paid on call stations have an 87% response. It's our feeling that a large part of that is, again, driven by sort of work versus activities outside the community and the number of members we have. It all sort of comes into that. There have been questions about how we respond and why we don't let members respond alone. And quite simply, there's a requirement to respond with a minimum of 2. And that's to protect the individual and the organization from a risk management perspective, pretty obviously. The no response data includes when we only have one member show up to the station in Janelle, because we're unable to respond to that station. So it was back in that 2022 time that we started to respond to Janelle from the trail station to support the community and to ensure that a response happened as the community needed it. And so I think that's been going well from the perspective of ensuring the service was there. I'm sorry that I'm not talking here. I just apologize. Yeah. So that's some of that history of that no response piece. So I'm required when we have significant changes, either in so the fire underwriters looks at 4 key pillars. They look at the administration of the department, they look at training, they look at our equipment, and they look at communications and prevention. So there's a number of key pillars that the fire underwriters look like. We're required to update them on an infrequent basis when there's substantial change within our service. So i.e., a truck, a piece of apparatus is replaced that was past its service time. When we went to Kelowna for our communications, for our dispatch services, it put 2 dispatchers on duty that raised that was a benefit to our communications piece. So I provide that from the perspective of we also have to report our paid on call staffing. And so when we started to report our decrease in numbers in 2023, they requested that we provide a written update of our current situation. Due to a number of reasons, we dragged our feet on that as long as we could. I had to do that starting in February of this year. The insurance grading change to unprotected or unrecognized for the Janelle community, it's in place because of our current staffing, not because of our decision to close or not. So those 2 things are decoupled. I'm not saying they can't be recoupled, but currently that staffing has a direct effect on that insurance rating. So over the last 3 years, service delivery for Janelle has primarily been provided from our trail station. Without response from the trail station, 78% of the calls to Janelle would have had no response. Next slide, please. So, questions about recruitment. So, historically, and I'm going to use the time frame that I've worked for the organization, which is 15 years. Historically, our paid on call stations ran rather independently. And over the time that I've been with the organization, we've worked together to improve our fire services to ensure that the levels of service and the structure of the department meet the ongoing needs of the communities that we protect and the future standards and legislation, training, and response requirements. So the Janelle station has had ongoing challenges with recruitment. But going back to 2008, we found, as we're kind of thinking about this conversation today, we found newspaper articles back to 2008. We've got the fire underwriter survey from 2008 that talks about our low staffing in Janelle, and we've had increases since then, and we're back down again, and so it's not a new issue. It's been an issue for some time. Since 2001, specifically, our recruiting has been an annual event that's happened every year. But the recruitment for our paid-on-call station and our paid-on-call firefighters has been led by what we call it our Station Officers Committee. And so that's made up of a paid-on-call member from each one of our 5 paid-on-call stations. And we meet and talk and work together to figure out strategies and ideas of what we could do together to improve recruitment and retention. It was spoken to earlier about our 27-page recruitment package. I'm not saying that ours is longer or shorter than somebody else's, but I'm comfortable in saying that that application package, part of that package is to inform people on what the commitment is of what they're stepping forward to. And so like it's a big part of the onboarding process and getting them to complete an application to be part of the department. So things that, and it was touched on earlier, things that are work and don't work, but the things we have done are the new recruitment package, posters for within the hall and around the communities, promotional social media, press releases, radio interviews with current paid-on-call members, open houses, recruitment, both locally within the fire stations. And last year, as an example, that station officers group that I mentioned, we didn't have good uptake at the 2023 open houses. So they're like, well, a lot of the surrounding communities attend Silver City Days and Gyro Park. So we had a whole session in Gyro Park during Silver City Days, and just trying to change different mediums of how we're in front of people and bring awareness to the opportunity to join our paid-on-call ranks. I share that from the perspective of it's not a lot different list than Andrew mentioned earlier. Sandwich boards, we use sandwich boards. Every one of our station has a sandwich board, and we move those around communities. So we're not out of line. I think Dave said something about a wake-up call, and maybe that is what's needed if there is a change in the decision that this brings attention to how dire the situation is. Sorry. The graph in front of you is a summary of the last number of years since we've been tracking this information, where it's a summary of the applications requested. So we've averaged 25 applications are requested annually, average 9 returned, average 7 have been hired, and 3 of those 7 have left within the same year. That's in addition to others that have left.
That's across the service, correct?
That's across the service. It's important to note that nationally, this isn't, our experience isn't, drastically better or drastically worse than anybody else. This is similar experience to what other communities are experiencing. When we were at the meeting in Janelle, it was brought up, forgive me if it was that Blewett or Beasley, one of the local departments of the RDCK, they have good recruiting, and why don't we talk to them? And I did talk to their regional fire chief since then, and they are having similar challenges to us. They're not having. I think the comment was along the lines of we're meeting our minimums, right? Which isn't, so this isn't a Janelle problem. This is a national problem in regards to recruitment and retention. Next slide, please. So when sort of thinking about the recruitment piece, Aaron Hurley is our station officer in Janelle. I reached out to Aaron because Glenn and I were starting to put this presentation together, and I reached out to Aaron and I said, as we think about this, can you share with us what you feel that the Janelle members have done in regards to recruitment within the community? And 45 minutes later, Aaron provided me this list. I've packaged it like he had it by year. But again, it marries what I just said, and it also pretty closely it matches what Andrew said as well. So out of Janelle Days, fireworks, drop-off applications to new residents, sandwich board placed around communities, training in public spaces. Like, I don't think I need to read through it all, but you get the idea that there's been efforts that have been led by the local members, and there's been efforts that have been led by the department. Our communications officer has helped us with social media, radio stuff, print media. Like, we're trying these things, and I can only go with what we got to where we are here today. So next slide, Mark. So I've heard grumblings in the time since the meeting in February to today that we've removed equipment from the Janelle Fire Station. We have not. All the equipment that was in the Janelle Fire Station prior to this decision is still there today. The apparatus is there. Like, we haven't made any changes because the change that's in effect is to take effect June the 25th. And even to the point where over the last number of years, we've had grant opportunities where we've been standardizing equipment. We've put that equipment in Janelle, just like we've put it in every other station. We have replaced turnout gear as required with our Janelle members. And we've replaced apparatus across our fleet as required. So that's a non-starter conversation for me. And if somebody feels otherwise, please speak up. Right? From a training perspective, training is an ongoing challenge for our paid-on-call firefighters to meet the training requirements set out by the BC Fire Service minimum training standards. The minimum training standards require the regional district to set a service level policy, which is a full service level of service. And we've set that level of service and had it in place, I want to say going back to 2015. We also trained the Emergency Medical Assistant Licensing Board. They dictate their first responder level of training that we provide to provide first responder services to our communities. BC Wildfire Service, as we work in our interface, as an increasing risk, and also meeting WorkSafe BC requirements. We are already starting to see the benefits of our new training center next door, where we're bringing our paid-on-call members in and working with career staff. I mean, as you know, as elected officials, it's something that we've been pushing hard on the throttle for years to get this facility, and we're there now. And just in the 4 or 5 months that it's been operational, they really seeing a benefit of how we are integrating that into the training needs of our paid-on-call members. There's a mix of budgetary implications with the continued operation of the Janelle Fire Station. None of the decisions were made as a reflection of like a cost-cutting measure, but there is ongoing, and that's some of it's pretty obvious from the perspective of building maintenance, a larger apparatus fleet. Those sort of things are longer-term, bigger capital pieces. Shorter term, turnout gear is the one that sticks out to me right now. We currently have, I think it's about a dozen sets of spare gear, and we budget and have been budgeting for some time now for replacement of turnout gear annually. And the budget that we have meets our current paid-on-call staffing and career staffing needs. But if there's an increase in our paid-on-call numbers, then there's an increase impact to that budget for turnout gear. And just to give you a ballpark, turnout gear in today's world that is between $4,000 and $5,000 for a set of turnout gear for someone. And We typically haven't bought new turnout gear for new members because of, we were talking earlier about that turnover piece at the beginning, and typically someone new isn't going into fire. We're training them and they're doing the duties on the outside of the fire. So we're making sure, but all of our members who are responding today are in gear that meets the requirements of 10-year replacement schedule. So, and then work plan, kind of like thinking about this year and thinking about the conversations we've had about work plan. So like working on a significant operational guideline update that's taken, a significant amount of time, capital project management, whether that be future, our apparatus rolling stock, our training grounds, or building maintenance, all rolled into that. Grant management, we've been very successful the last number of years with grant management and the capacity to continue doing that. Bylaw update, the Fire Safety Act was brought into force on August the 1st. And, there's things we're putting in place to do an update to our bylaw. We're ideally getting that done this year because that will really help us with how we manage challenging properties from a fire inspection and prevention perspective. And then longer term fire master planning and where we're going with fire master planning and the direction to conduct a fire master plan for the service. Next slide, Mark. So the way I see it is there's kind of three options that are in front of us. So one would be the continuous status quo operation of the station. So just remove the decision that's been made and just sort of let it organically continue to run. I don't think that's a good option. Option two is closure as planned, pretty straightforward. Option three is conditional operation, and this needs to be fleshed out because there's a lot to be figured out. But these are some initial thoughts around the minimum requirements in regards to the number of firefighters, onboarding those firefighters, training requirements as per operational guidelines, attendance, and really managing that longer term in regards to not letting it slip back to where we are today, if that's the decision, right? So like these are the requirements, and if we're going to do this, we're going to do it. And if we're not going to meet the requirements, then that informs a decision in the future. All of these options have administrative, operational, training, operating and capital budget implications for the service, and all of them have an impact on Deputy Chief Gallimore and myself in regards to what we're working on in moving forward. Because again, I'm not trying to sway the decision or the conversation here. This is the foundation of the conversation. And if the decision is some change, then we need to internalize that and come back with some recommendations on how we can do that and impacts the other work that we're currently working on.
Is that it?
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for that, Dan. I'm going to ask the directors to go around the table, ask any questions for Dan on his presentation. Linda, do you want to make a statement now, or do you want to?
I'll make a statement now to start, and then after I'll make a statement at the after everyone spoke.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, through the chair.
Yeah.
And to everybody here at the table. Respectfully, I'd like to ask the East End Service Committee to consider extending the closure of the Janelle Hall, Station 373, for the foreseeable future, hopefully for 1 year, to allow the residents to continue to recruit and retain successful applicants for the needed number of 15 or more firefighters to be trained to serve the community. And the reason I ask for this is that again, it's difficult getting word out to everybody, and I think folks were blindsided, and for whatever reasons, they didn't show up at a previous town hall where it was first mentioned several years ago, and that it could be an option. I don't know. That's just life gets in the way. So the wider community, since learning about the closure decision, has stepped up, and groups of residents have acquired an extensive list of possible candidates going forward. And in addition, they've acquired a petition with 450 names in support of the extension. That list of names on the petition that went around, I did present it to the staff. But Anitra, if you'd like to just mention why it's not on the agenda,
Oh, it's there.
but the actual list of names is
Oh, yes, sorry.
and why it's not there.
Sure, through the chair. So petitions fall under legislative requirements. For a petition to be considered relevant or applicable in this case, we need at least 50% of property owners. And so staff have not had time to go through that list to ascertain whether or not all the people listed are indeed property owners. We would also have to do some redaction as per FOI to remove signatures. And given the time at which that petition was submitted, we did not have time to do those processes in order to get that on the agenda.
But if I may carry on, thank you through the chair. That list is here, and it's here for documentation for the staff to look at and see. And I'd just like to mention, it was brought up, I think Andrew brought up, Mr. Epstein brought up the point of what's going to happen to other fire stations. And I just want to make the others aware that any other fire station in the future, if indeed it were to be deemed to be closed for some reason, would not affect their fire insurance because they are within the underwriter's designated kilometers to the main fire station to keep them safe from having their insurance rates go up. And, as we all know, and it's been stated by Chief Derby, that the decision to close the hall that was made at this table would not what affected the insurance rating. It was the fact there's only 5 firefighters, and that's underwriters. They require 15. And they finally caught up with the fact that they were way below that number, and it has nothing to do with what decision was made at this table. Totally unrelated. We have no power to affect any insurance ratings here. So, but I'd like to leave it at that. Just ask your indulgence and respectfully ask that you consider the options, and I will speak to that later.
Terry, do you have any questions for Dan or
I
comment?
do actually.
Okay.
Through the chair. Thanks, Chief. Fire underwriters, you said in February 2025 that they dropped it to not being recognized. So if they get 15 members minimum, what's the time frame that can be changed
So,
back to being recognized?
thank you, through the chair. So when I reached out to the fire underwriters, and I'm just trying to find a spot in the staff report, unfortunately, this isn't an uncommon conversation that they work through with communities. And so what they've done is they've put, and this is a cut and paste from the response I got from the fire underwriters. Provisional status indicates that, they've put the Janelle residents on provisional status. And provisional status indicates that the levels of public fire protection currently do not meet the minimum levels in order to be recognized for fire insurance grading. For example, staffing at the fire hall may be temporary below the minimum levels, or there may be a post-disaster event that is temporarily interrupting or affecting the delivery of emergency services. The provisional status indicates that the interruption in the level of service is expected to be temporary. Generally, a community is given 12 months to address the issue. So that's the current status that they've given us. If there is a change as we work through this, then we would work with the underwriters. They are recognizing that the response is coming from Trail. It's the it's the 8 kilometer travel distance that's the challenge that they currently have that policy. I'm actually meeting with the underwriters on Thursday and advocating again for that change, right? So it's not like we are not trying here.
Andy?
Yeah, how many, Dan, just to add to that, how many months, years you anticipate with the potential of having a new recruitment group to get them to minimum standards?
Thank you. So there's 3 levels of training through the BC minimum training standards. There's the exterior, interior, and full service. We train our members through that process to become a full service member. It's been taking north of 2 years to complete that. Do I think our training grounds are going to help with that? Yes, I do. But that has been our experience. And live fire and hazmat, which are part of the core competencies of your firefighter training, have been kind of our Achilles heel of getting people through their training. And then in today's world, honestly, availability of members to attend training. Shift work is not a friend at times of trying to regularly train people and work through training requirements. And then to the point of an annual intake that was raised earlier, really, we have a history of not doing an annual intake, and we're just about worked through all the challenges of that. The benefit of an annual intake is you're moving a cohort through the class and through the training. And Acting Captain Littleton has done a lot of work in the time that he's been in the training office to try and bring different individuals together to get sort of back into a cohort that were kind of, I need this piece and somebody else needed another piece. And so really challenging. So, and it's for those reasons that the full service requirement, the first responder requirement, and the wildfire training are the 3 core competencies that we're looking to train our to be able to follow members up with to be able to do the service that they provide in their individual communities. We don't dictate what those training standards are. Those are provided by the organizations I outlined earlier. And we've worked with training providers to try and do back to that station officers group. We actually changed our training provider a number of years ago with input from that group to try and help streamline the training program to meet the needs of our paid on call members. So that's an active conversation at that table, but that answers the question.
Yeah, it helps. The other one that be nice to know the stats for the actual calls to Janelle. So you've got you going back to that slide. Number of calls, I think we're up to 93 in 2024. 2023, I saw that actually. So this was, okay, total calls 93, 23 were attended, okay. So the other stat I'm looking for is specific calls, like was it medical related, was it an auto accident, was it a fire?
And I don't have that at my fingertips. No problem. I can give you some, I think, generalities that will
sure.
So that. So in the data that's in front of you there, 2023 is skewed from a first responder perspective, more calls because of a specific residence that we were responding to, right? And so there's a spike there that happens all over the place still, but that's a reality. You can see that that number of no response kind of across the middle for first responder, 42, 53, 27, that I'm not going to say that that's all of the first responder calls, but that's getting close to probably the majority of the first responder calls for Janelle. And then from a fire perspective, we on average are like 1 to 3 fires per year on average. across the last number of years. And then motor vehicle incidents, you're probably getting closer to 10 on average, sort of north of Oasis, right? Out the highway there. So that gives you some ideas, and I'm not going to be far off on that, right? But that gives you some perspective on what the call makeup is.
So again, vast number of calls are related to medical or other, other in a larger category. Okay.
Mike, Ellie, and then Frank.
Okay. Question, how long has the fire department been open there, Janelle? When did it?
So my understanding, and again, is that in 1983, when the service was amalgamated, Janelle was part of that amalgamation. But I think it was very close to that kind of 81, 82, that there was a local fire department in Janelle that operated out of the Pop building, where the Pop building, Pepsi building is now. But when the service was amalgamated and built in 1983 across our 6 stations, that's where we came together.
Okay, and our underwriters, how many kilometers is it?
So their policy is 8 kilometers.
8?
8. Some insurance companies recognize to 13. That's what I know, right? So policy is 8. Some insurance companies will recognize to 13. It's off the top of my head, it's just over 14 kilometers from here, from this station to the Janelle Fire Station. And people have asked about Castle Fire, who we have a mutual aid agreement with, and it's, I think, just over 12 kilometers, Castle Fire Station to ours. So just neither of those numbers help the underwriters conversation.
Well, because we're such in a rural community that it's different if we're 14 kilometers. Now, if you're in Vancouver, 14 kilometers, that could take hours, whereas here it takes minutes.
As you know, in my provincial work, I actually used the township of Langley as an example, that I could put my own $100 bill down on a bet and guarantee you that we can travel, that 8 kilometers a lot faster than they can, given this scenario. And that's a whole time versus distance that we are, the fire service and local government. I'm hearing that UBCM is advocating for changes to the fire underwriters to look at apparatus replacement schedules and travel distance versus time calculations.
Okay, another question from the applications. What do you mean by returned?
So we track, so I have a package here, right, just as an example, and they're numbered. So because we were starting to hear this years ago, we needed more information about what was going on. So we track every application that goes out, and we track every application that comes back. And so that on average, if we've given out 25 packages, 9 have been returned to us for consideration.
Alan.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, I have 4 questions, and I'll do them one at a time if you don't mind, through the chair to the chief. First of all, if you can go back to the data that I think Andy was referring to for a minute, and I'm still unclear on this question here, and just a simple numbers is what I'm looking for. In those 3 years, average number of calls to Janelle and average number or percentage that Trail responded.
Sure, just give me 2 seconds to think about that.
Can I round this off if you like? Sure. So since we implemented the change in our response logic, Trail has responded to 100% of the calls in each number. It's automatic that we're rolling, other than I shouldn't say 100%, probably 98%, other than if it's for someone that's slipped and twisted an ankle, it's not a life serious or medical emergency or whatever, knowing for us that an ambulance is responding. And have also responded with members from Janelle to got a fire and trailer park last year where we responded. So it's a layered response. It's mutual. It's not just Trail goes, just Janelle goes. we go to every incident out there until we know for sure that there's a Janelle crew that's available to respond. And then they will respond, and then we'll come in as what we call second due to support, back up, help the incident, mitigate the emergency, whatever it may be. If that answers your question.
And I'll give you an example. Yesterday morning when I was coming into work, or I guess maybe I was off yesterday, but when I was coming into work on this presentation yesterday, there was a call in Janelle. The trail station started to respond. There was radio communication between dispatch and the Janelle station in regards to how many firefighters they had to respond. There was only one available to respond, so they kept responding to ensure a response. The first responder calls are coded, red and purple being severity and sort of life-saving intervention may be required in the red. We're going to all of those calls. So it's only a yellow or orange call, which are less severe, if you will, that there may not be a response from the trail station. We will even go to those yellow and orange calls when we have 4 downstairs, like on Monday to Thursday on day shift.
Through the chair, and just to follow up, that's the same response logic that we're using in Warfield, Montrose, Fruitville. Like because we are getting times where they have no response from other stations as well, that we have a responsibility to our customers that when they call for help, go. And whether that's coming from Trail or Janelle or Montrose or wherever, somebody has to respond to those, and we always go.
Right, okay, just recapping, you're responding to 98% of the calls in Janelle.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question, if they were to get to the 15 numbers, which I think it is required by the fire underwriters, there's also an attendance requirement, but I didn't see that number. So let's say we're fully staffed in Janelle and the alarms are going off and whatever so many times a month. What's the percentage requirement to fulfill the rest of the fire underwriter requirements?
So the fire underwriters, the reason they have the numbers of 10 or 15 is because they count 1 and 3. So if you think about, you've heard me talk lots about needing 4 on a truck to go to work. So by having 10, 12, you're getting that 3, 4 in the apparatus, right? So that's what that's what the underwriters are looking for. We, like all the other fire services, have attendance requirements, which are challenging to enforce from the perspective of training, because we need people to attend so we can move through the training, but then we have work and life implications and they don't attend, but we need members, and it's this awkward sort of balance as you go down the road together of how we train people. And you can, some of our training challenges are associated with availability of training and trainers. Some of our training challenges are associated with availability of members to attend the training.
So in a report I read recently, it specified in order to keep your protected status and not be provisional, you have to respond to X percentage of the calls.
Our operational guideline off the top of my head is we're looking for 70.
We ask our operational policies need to attend 70% of all practices. And
So I'm not talking about practice.
50 or 60% of incidents.
60% of incidents.
We'll confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says 40% of calls.
40% of incidents. Okay.
Because that's not what's in the report that we recently had in our reports that we read before we made this original decision.
I'll confirm that back.
And I have it somewhere too. So if the committee is, flexible in considering a 1-year timeline, which I think to the fire underwriters report, it should be within a 12 months time frame, being challenged to be trained within that 12-month timeline, what projects will be impacted in your own work plan? What projects will not happen that we have already approved with our fire service and emergency management?
Okay. Dan and I've had some discussions on that and basically basically said that they'll need time to come back to state what the impact, term impact will be. So I don't want to put them on the spot of saying that this will be impacted and then there may be other ones. He just hasn't had time to.
I'll rephrase my question. Will there be projects that will be postponed because of a new decision?
Potentially, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then Dan, you spoke to, you're having meetings with fire underwriters, and I think you were saying, but it wasn't clear, that you are going to speak to the challenge of the 8-kilometer distance. Is that what you were referring to with your conversations with fire underwriters?
There's three, yes, we want to talk about apparatus replacement schedules, we want to talk about travel distance versus time, and we want to talk about safe egress stairs.
Good. Okay, very good. And I just want to reiterate a point Director Worley made that very, very important. I mean, the fire underwriters are making the decision on the insurance levels, not us. Very important point. And, you know, disappointing to see the misinformation that's being spread in social media, you know, throwing our fire chief under the bus. And that's been so unfair and not right. And I just caution anyone in the room that make sure if you're sharing information, it's accurate information, completely unfair to some of our staff. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, Chair. So the fire rating of 5, because I don't know a lot about the fire insurance stuff, but that means there's no fire support. Basically.
Unrecognized is the phraseology that the underwriters used.
If we had a full functioning hall, what would the fire rating be?
There's two pieces to this. So the dwelling protection grade is a 1 to 5 scale, and that's for residential. And the public fire protection classification is a 1 to 10 scale, and that's commercial.
So what was it before they made the decision to go to 5? Was it a 4? Was it a 3?
It's 3.
3A is the current rate.
So I was wondering if there's something in between. And there's something in between.
There's a 3A, a 3B, a 4, and a 5, right, as it goes up. Janelle has the benefit of it. Like Janelle independently would struggle, I believe, to be a 3A because of the service that we have and the way, the makeup of our bigger department, if you will. We've been able to have that 3A for a number of years. So that's the current situation.
So how long on average does it take to respond to a call from here?
We're about 9 minutes on scene, which isn't a lot different than when we're rolling a truck out of the Janelle station. If we're like, I'll step away from Janelle for a minute because our numbers are so low. But in our other paid on call stations, on average, we're about 9 minutes on scene, right? Because they have to respond to the station, then turn out to the incident. And so what we've found over the last number of years is with the run cars that we built out, as Glenn highlighted, especially on a fire scenario, we're actually generally arriving on scene not on top of each other, but like sometimes the local trails first into Fruitvale because people were responding from further, and then they're second in or they're first in and we're right behind them. And we start to build out the 12 to 14 members that we need at a fire by building that out so quickly.
Okay, so that's what you're talking to the underwriters about, is that we're there at the same time, basically, anyways. And this has got to be an issue all over Canada.
Yes.
Okay. And this is where the insurance companies are giving it to us, basically.
They're giving
It's not just fire.
Yeah, they're handing it to us. And I would say locally, we have the benefit of the career staff in that recognition with the underwriters, because if Janelle was an independent rural community on their own, there wouldn't be that second due without mutual aid or automatic aid, and even, you know, go more remote community like a Christina Lake where they're more independent to themselves, right? They've got to have that response for locally to build up that underwriting, where we're dependent on a system to build that.
So personally, I like to see that orientation package, so maybe we'll just come and get it back, just to see what it's like. Thank you.
Linda?
Okay, so going back to this, I'd like to respectfully ask the East End Service Committee to consider extending the closure of Janelle 373 Fire Station. This community has stepped up, and this community is ready and able and willing, more so willing to have people come forward and try to get that certification they need, try to get the acceptance on the applications, and be successful there. And so therefore, I would like to, I'm not going to go to option one because that doesn't help. The main issue here for the folks, fire protection has been provided through the trail station. Dan just talked about that. So you're not going to be having any less fire attendants by not having that station open. But the big issue I'm hearing from the folks is the insurance ratings, which is huge for all of us. So I would like to move alternative or option 3 for this committee to consider for a 1-year period. And this gives the timeline I requested of the 1 year, and with the recommendation that the East End Service Committee provides direction to staff as to any change in the closure of the General Fire Hall as supported by alternative 3.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any questions or on the motion? Terry?
Yes, through the chair. This is for Andrew and Dave. I got a couple of questions. The one thing, do you guys include the current station officer with some of your fire advisory group information?
These stayed on the sidelines of all this, so we could have communication openly and everything.
Okay, moving forward, if it goes good for option 3, which I'm thinking it might, are you willing to work with, Aaron, and obviously with the 2 chief officers of the fire department moving forward?
Absolutely. That's the whole goal of coming out of this.
Okay, have you brought any information? I'm just curious. Have you shared any of your information with the current chief officers, or has it been just kind of a building information platform?
Building information so far, just finding people and getting communication out there. We've crammed a lot in 4 weeks. So,
Okay.
Yeah, so
All right. Okay, I think that's it for now.
Okay, I'll get to everybody. Andy?
Question was asked earlier with the impacts of current services, the current budget year and work plan. Before I make this decision about whether I would like to consider option 3, I would like to have information. As you know, this is not a decision that's come easy or quickly to this table. And I think that, I need more information from our staff as to the impacts. This is something that's been under consideration for a long period of time. Somebody's getting their haircut right now. I think I'd like that information specifically.
Option 3 in Chief Derby's thing, get Mark to pull it up, but basically option 3 is additional operation of the Janelle Fire Hall in the staff statement. The conditional operation plan to be developed by staff and brought back to the May 2025 meeting. So this is just, this motion is to get staff working on how it would work.
Okay.
And how much it would cost.
Right.
And what's not going to be done.
Okay.
And within the current budget.
So making that decision as Linda brought it forward today. So I'm happy with that if we're not making a final decision at this point.
The staff needs the time to say, this is the impact, and they just do that. Because the idea was not to waste their time if we said, no, we're going to get it on with June. So now that if this motion goes forward, staff will have 2 months to come back to say, this is what it's going to look like.
Thank you.
I
already said.
Okay.
Yeah, 3 things. Thank you through the chair. This group has already approved a motion for a work plan, so we would be making another motion to consider a motion that already has been passed So the rules around reconsideration of a motion requires 2/3 of the committee to approve a reconsideration of a motion. Is that right? I'm seeing nods. Also, I would like to see whatever motion it is that we're approving today. I'd like to see it on the screen in writing, please. I'm a bit unclear as to what it is. And I'll come back to that in a minute looking for it through the chair to Andrew and group. You said you had a plan in place. Can you tell me what that plan is in less than 1 minute? Please.
The intention is to continue with the recruitment process we've done. Got to get a third of the people that I still want to get in front of me and have my discussion with. We need the opportunity to get a hold of the application packages formally so that we can have them work on their application packages to be submitted. Getting those submitted, getting them through the hiring process and getting it in the door. That's really the immediate need is we need those bodies in the building. Once we have them, we got to keep them. Right? We need to work on how the community through the advisory group in some capacity can work with regional on making that work better long term. Dealing with some of the issues we've got next year. We didn't speak a lot to it today, but retention of firefighters is probably the biggest thing. You bring people in, you train them, and then we lose them for a variety of reasons. That has to be fixed long term. We think there's a way to do that. There's other municipalities that have systems in place that help that. We want to propose some ideas there. And yeah, I mean, I think the slap in the face to the community has not been unnoticed. You know, they've stepped up, and I think they'll continue to do that.
Okay, and then just follow up to that is, so in order to get them trained properly, does that mean our training officer has to be dedicated full time to these new recruits in order to get them trained within 12 months? And I'm still unclear on what the motion is, but we'll come back to that.
Yeah.
The motion, as I understand it, is number 3 in front of you on the screen. The training officer piece, this would have an impact to the training officer, and I'll bring that back in a report should this pass. I want to speak to Andrew's comment about him meeting with potential candidates and the application package. I have a big challenge with that. Like I don't know what Andrew is saying to people. Like, and ultimately, I'm hiring them, and so I'm the one that needs to meet with them. And having 2 groups working on a problem is not going to be a recipe for success. The application package is part of the screening process. Groupthink on doing applications. I wouldn't accept an application that was done in a group setting, right? Like, if people can't complete the applications package, they're not going to be able to complete the training, right? And so I feel very strongly about that. And so there's some work to be done collectively. I don't disagree with that, but I'm just saying that straight out.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, so reading that motion there, the only decision we're making today is to review what staff is bringing back to us in May.
Correct.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I'm clear.
Yeah. Good. Right. And then I'll get back to you, Andy.
So as you brought up about it has to go through you. The communication has to be, you have to work together. If you're not working together, it's not going to work. Period. Question for the homeowners. If it's a conditional operation of the fire station, are they still going to get hit with the rating 5 for the insurance in that time? Like if tomorrow someone goes to get insurance, is it a number 5?
Can I speak to that?
No, that's the Dan right now. Sorry.
I can't answer that 100%. Only the underwriters can, like, we could all speculate on that. I can seek clarity from the underwriters.
Okay. Andy, back to you.
Yeah, I going back to the recruitment process, I'm really concerned about how this is unfolding. As Dan had said, it's typically one-on-one, and just filling the application out is not a guarantee by any means. And obviously, we've seen the numbers, the percentages, and if as mentioned, there's an opportunity to fix a nationally decades-long problem of recruitment and retention, because as pointed out, we're getting people dropping out of the service as well. Yeah, it's great that it's a possibility, but again, you know, looking at the decision that was made, it wasn't because all of a sudden we're in a crisis. This has been ongoing for a long time, going back into the early 2000s and probably even before then, with small communities trying to maintain their standards and minimum standards. The province as well is part of the problem, or the authorities under the provincial regulations. That's part of the problem. Firefighters aren't firefighters anymore. They're first responders. And you look at the number of incidents that are fire related, they're way, way down. But the requirements for training are way, way up. Partly for health and safety is my guess of the members, understandably. But again, the system to support, and they're not volunteers anymore. I know that word's been thrown around a lot because volunteers weren't available to do these jobs anymore. You can't get volunteers to come out to support a parade anymore, or a simple, you know, your pancake breakfast that you mentioned, Andrew, is great, but every community is suffering to try and get volunteers to do volunteer work within the community, and it's a breakdown of community, truly. But again, it's a reflection of where we're at in times. I think, you know, it's kind of like this issue nationally that we're occurring as Canadians right now because the U.S. tariff threat. We're pulling together, and I'm hoping that this does so for Janelle as well on a much smaller scale. Hoping that there's possibilities here, but again, to give them the go-ahead at this time, I'm still hesitant. I must be honest, and I need more information. And I don't want to see tons of resources put into our staff without, you know, some guarantees. And even then, we have no guarantee. So again, I really do advise this group, this committee, to take the time it takes to make a decision for the betterment, not only of the community of Dunell, but also our staff and this service that we all contribute to.
Okay, Linda, and then Ally.
I know there's a lot of misinformation out there regarding the folks saying they can't get applications currently. Could you clear that up, please, Jake?
Currently, the direction I have from yourselves is to close the fire station. I have said we're not giving out applications because that's the current direction. I've also said to Aaron, our station officer, keep names, that in the event there's a change in this decision, I'll bring the applications out, right? Like, so it's more of a process conversation right now, is because the direction I've been given based on my recommendation, that's the current situation. If that changes, absolutely, we'll give applications out.
Okay, thank you, Dan. Over to Ally.
Yeah, I'll try and be quick. Thank you, Chair. I just want, I guess this message is to the community and people who are listening. We as a group go to a conference every year called Union BC Municipalities. We also have an education and advocacy committee. We take these issues that we're hearing today year after year, not just this community, but many of us take these issues we're hearing today over and over to the Union BC Municipalities to meet with ministers in Vancouver, Victoria, wherever we go. I'm getting frustrated with that whole process. You know, we've dealt with the fire apparatus for over 20 years and nothing changes. I think we need to start going directly to the province for the changes that we'd like to see, the 8 kilometers, the apparatus replacement. I don't think those UBCM meetings are much effective anymore. We share many of the same frustrations, and I think I've talked here about using different strategies. What we have tried in the past isn't working anymore. We need to do something different. The fire underwriters, I challenged in my second year of being elected here back in 2008, and everyone thought, no, you can't challenge the underwriters. We need to start challenging the underwriters and insurance companies in general. They have way too much power. Thank you.
Okay, any more comments? So to be clear, it's the conditional operation of the Janelle Fire Station, and the conditional operation plan is to be developed by staff and brought back to the May 2025 East End Services Committee. So to be clear, this is not a decision that says we're extending beyond June 25th. This is getting staff to come back with the financial implications, the possibility, and how long it would take. And that will be brought to the May 2025 East End Services Committee. Is everybody clear on the motion? Okay, call question on the motion. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. I move on to items 7A, which is item for information, the neighborhood petition. The regional district has a comment there. The community petition was received with over 450 names, addresses, and signatures. At this time, the regional district does not have the permission from individuals to share the private information, but clearly acknowledges the receipt of the petition. Late emergent items, I don't believe there are any. Oh, do I need a motion for that? Yes. Okay, a motion to receive the petition. Andy?
Yeah.
Terry, thank you. On favor, carried. Okay, late emergence items, there are none. Discussions for future agenda items. Ally?
Thank you, Chair. I wished we would have had a little bit more information before receiving this agenda, understanding why a number of items that I thought was important be deferred. I now understand that. I'm happy with that. And I have sent my own, you asked us as chair
Yes.
to prioritize
Yes.
what should come in April and what should come in May. I have sent my own
Yes,
to you and James, and I guess others will be doing the same. So
Right.
I've already sent you my thoughts on that.
thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, so there's, as you know, there was a lot of stuff that was deferred that went out the email. And I gave, Laura just gave a list. I prioritized it myself with no compunction for anybody else. The idea is anybody feels that as something should be moved from April to May, put it in. James and Mark will look at it and come back with stuff that they have for the agenda, if everybody's okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing no objections. Okay. Questions for the public or media? You know what? We'll go to the back first, and then we'll go online for anybody that has any questions. So in the back gallery, does anybody have any questions?
I think,
I just have to read out something first.
Bill,
Yeah.
a few minutes.
Yes, yeah. Oh, you want a 2-minute break?
No, I want to make sure that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
specify.
I just have to read this out. Due to the number of members of the community present, either in person or online, we will have to maintain a more structured question period today for the public and the media. We will receive questions from anyone who has a question. However, we request that you keep it to the question and keep them brief, and please do not repeat questions if someone else has already asked the same question. As per the Regional District Kootenai Boundary Procedures Bylaw, this time is expressed devoted to questions only. We try not to provide comments. We really want to hear questions for clarification if they needed. I will be closing the public question period when I feel that there are no further questions from the public, or those questions are becoming repetitive. So when you come forward, I just need you to announce your name, where you're from, and provide your question. Dave, you're already talking, so I'm going to let somebody else. I'll get back to you.
I bet another Dave talk. Okay, Dave Musio from Community Janelle, longtime resident. This is a follow-up question to a previous question that I submitted on the March 12th board meeting concerning the closure of this hall. And I just want to say my follow-up is, does this presentation respectfully offered by Andrew Espinine and Dave Lamorato meet the threshold of continuing this invaluable service to the community of Janelle? That's my question.
I think to clarify the motion that we passed is we cannot give you a definitive yes right now. What we have done is told staff to spend time and effort to see how they could come up with a plan for the extension of the, to continue on with the Janelle Fire Hall as a volunteer paid on-call fire hall. So staff will come back in May with their recommendation on how it would happen. and how much it's gonna cost and what they're not going to do out of our master plan.
Right. I just wanted to keep that thought in mind.
Oh, I think that's pretty clear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dave?
The only question I had was how you spoke to the insurance. So if we close the hall, there's no reversing the insurance. If we keep the hall open, we do have a chance of reversing the insurance. So I would say by making a decision and closing the hall before the insurance things, how should we proceed with that? It's kind of like letting the horse out of the gate if we close the hall and then try to go insurance company see if it changed. If we're given the 12 months and are even unsuccessful, that gives us 12 months to work with insurance companies to change their policies. And I was asked, the question is how would you recommend to deal with this?
I think that would be part of the staff review, but go ahead, Dan.
Dave, just for clarity, at the end of your comment there, I won't be working with insurance companies because insurance companies and the fire underwriters are two different animals. So the fire underwriters set the standards, if you will, right? And insurance companies.
So you're working with insurance underwriters. So rather than my question being to insurance companies, how do we convince the insurance writers to change their policies if the horse is already out of the gate? Keep the horse in the gate and keep the fire hall open. We got a negotiation process. If the horse is already out the gate, there's no reason and no financial reason for the insurance underwriters to change their policies because all it is gonna, it's already done.
I think the best I can say right now is I hear you, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the discussion here today. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any more? Okay, the guy in the red coat, please identify yourself.
Ian Ball from Janelle Redden Analysis for Shade Derby. On your application, are you gonna rescind the 60-year age? I know it was, some departments have it, other parts don't. I applied 8 years ago. We had 5 practices, 60 years old, I was told to go. Will it be, these applications come up? I don't know what the age limit is, but you look at people over 60?
I'll build that into my, how do I say it? My assessment, my staff report that I'm going to bring back. I can say right now that I'm hesitant to because it's going to take 2 to 5 years for somebody to move through the training, right? And so it's a balance of
I know my particular case, I was a volunteer fire department student for 10 years, the shipboard firefighting, and 6 practices, sorry, here's retirement.
Thanks. Any more questions?
I just want clarification. Okay, you're putting this on for the May, whatever meeting. Does this mean that we'll only have that short period of time to run and hide? Or does that extend the time that that the chief has said will be the day they close the hall down? Or do we have in accordance a couple more months or whatever? Because anything they want to do is really get done if we only have not even a month.
Mark, you want me to answer? It's through with staff. So that's what I'm saying. I don't want. I'll start and then I'll let Mark add in if then. So basically, we made the decision to close the hall. So no work has been done on it. Anything, no planning on how to keep it going, no planning on recruiting, anything to do with that. The decision was made to close the hall. So all the staff are working in this way, and now we're telling the staff to go this way. And we don't do it at a meeting. They need time to figure out, okay, what is it going to require to actually keep the hall going, and what's the cost? Okay.
I understand that.
So they need time to do that, and that'll.
The 25th of June. The day we're waiting for still, or because of the time it takes to put this together, do we have a couple more months to worry about it?
In May, the decision will be made, either keep the June 25th date or carry on and start the Janelle Hall going. based on the staff report.
So we just keep working towards keeping it going. Okay.
Yeah, okay. Was there? Okay, online.
Sorry, I do. I just want to give everybody else a chance first.
Oh, no, I want to do the online people first. Ashley, if you're online and you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, hi, thank you. I'm wondering why the underwriters.
Ashley, excuse me, please identify yourself.
Yeah, Ashley Jarrett, Janelle resident.
Thank you. Carry on.
I'm just, you know, it's a bit frustrating to hear how much blame is being put on the underwriters, and I would just like to ask why, if the writing was on the wall about this, why the underwriters and the province hasn't been pressured before now.
Oh, they have been. Go ahead, Mark.
That's been a constant advocacy issue, not just with our regional district, but all local governments across the country. The insurance underwriters are an advisory body to the insurance industry, so they're completely independent of government. They're funded by the insurance industry. They provide guidelines in terms of how insurance companies should issue their policies and under what ratings. The insurance companies then, and as the chief alluded to, some insurance companies might recognize the 8 kilometers, others stretch it to 13 kilometers. The reason the insurance companies can do that is because the underwriters, fire underwriters, survey is an advisory body. So individual insurance companies have made a business decision to say, okay, that's the guideline, 8 kilometers, but we're willing to extend that to 13 kilometers and cover on that basis, recognizing the additional risk. So we as local governments have and nor does the provincial government. So when local governments have advocated for change consistently over the last 20 years to the Union of BC Municipalities, and the Union of BC Municipalities has taken that to the provincial government. The typical response the provincial government has to that advocacy is that they are in constant conversation with the insurance underwriters to review their guidelines. And I believe the chief's got one.
Yeah, I was just going to highlight that, like, to that UBCM piece, 2007, 2009, 2014, 2016, 2020, 21, and 22, there's been advocacy work in front of UBCM for in regards to the fire underwriters conversation. So it's to the question, like, there's a ton of work that has gone in up from local governments where they're trying to address this concern and risk from a community level. No change from the underwriters.
Thank you. Okay, online is Brianna. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Perfect. My name is Brianna Zanussi. I'm a Janelle resident. In the idea of moving forward then, will individuals be able to apply at the RDKB Fire Hall now? Are we going to be accepting applications? That's ultimately my question, because I just want to know if we could continue getting people trained, getting people experienced with the applicants that we do tentatively have.
So I think I'll go back to my comment is we're not currently accepting applications because the directive is I've encouraged through Aaron, who's the station officer that we work through the chain of command, to work with Andrew to maintain a list of those who are interested. And if there is a decision to reverse this, then obviously we would work with those individuals on applications and move forward through that process.
In May.
Yeah.
At the earliest.
Yeah.
Okay, next is Kira. Please identify yourself and ask your question.
Hi, my name's Kyra Hogan. I own the Castlegar Source and the Trail Champion. I'm a reporter, and I consider Janelle very much a coverage zone. I would like to speak to Janelle, but there's really no point. I feel like the people from Janelle have spoken to it better than I possibly could. So I would like to speak to the community at large, at like the region. And I have been covering Castlegar for 20 years, and I've been covering Trail for 12. And I know a lot of people who commute back and forth between the two. And the number one fear for all of us, the number one is China Creek. China Creek scares the heck out of us. And I can't begin to tell you how many times I have written stories about a catastrophic crash at China Creek where an off-duty Janelle firefighter showed up. Janelle is really important to our sense of safety. And I know I sound like I'm lecturing, and this is question. So here is my question. I believe that if we did a massive fundraising thing, I've actually talked to people about, could we do a massive fundraising thing? And they said the money will only go to the RDKB and Kootenay Boundary Regional Fire Rescue. Is there any way we can earmark money directly to Janelle, because it makes us feel safe?
So what's your,
Can we raise money that goes directly to Janelle and not to where it first has to get churned through? The thing is, if we give a bunch of money to Janelle so that they can pay their firefighters a little bit more, they're dramatically disadvantaged in terms of population. We can all agree on that, right? So if we can create an added incentive for their firefighters to offset
so the
population deficit, will we be allowed to do that, or does the money have to go to the RDKB?
I understand your question. I'll repeat it just to make sure we got it clear. Your question is can you fundraise for the Janelle area only? Correct?
For the Janelle Fire Hall only?
Yes.
And not to say we won't fundraise for the others. I mean, nobody can argue Dan Derby's numbers. He's doing fantastic. Same goes with Sam Latanzio here. I'm just saying they're at a disadvantage. How can we get them back up to par? Can we do that with money?
I don't think that this is a money issue. Like we don't not have members because of our wage rate, or it's not what the decision wasn't based on money. The decision was based on we don't have enough members. In 2024, we increased our paid on call wage rate significantly to help with our recruitment and retention. As part of that wage increase, we committed to do an annual increase for our paid on call members. And that was approved by the board. And once the budget is approved, we now have a system to do an annual increase for our paid on call members to stay competitive in the market of where we need to pay those wages.
But you haven't answered the question. Can we raise money specifically for the Janelle Fire Hall, period? Just them.
Kyra, you can form a BC. You can form a BC under the BC Societies Act. You can form any organization you want as a fundraising organization and collect funds and use that and allocate it as you see fit. For example, the United Way does that. So yes, you can form that. Nobody can stop you from forming a society that would help the firefighters in Janelle if you wanted to.
That's fantastic. I have one other idea that I want to run by you, and it may be stupid. I'm just throwing it at you. We've got some Selkirk students. I understand that people have to commit for an entire year. Am I correctly understanding that?
It has to be questions about what we're doing, okay? So the questions should be on the fact that we are directing staff to do an investigation on how to keep the fire hall going. And they will come back at the May 2025 meeting about that.
But my question is that maybe I can present an idea about how we could do it, because I'm told that you got to sign on for a year. What if we went to Selkirk College and got kids who would sign on for 2 years, but they got to go home for the summer? Like, can we get creative like that? Isn't that what you guys are supposed to be looking into right now, is creative opportunities to do something different?
I want to look at every opportunity. The short answer for what you just said is no. Like sending people home for the summer, like that's one of our risks.
Well, summer's kind of our prime time with fire, right?
And at the same time, it takes 2+ years to train somebody. Like we have a similar situation in our Rossland station where we have ski patrollers, or not ski patrollers, that people that work at the ski hill that come and they're going to commit to the department and then join in the fall and then they leave in the spring, and we've got really essentially nothing out of that. We need commitment from people that live in the community for the long term.
Okay, that was exactly my question. Thank you for answering. I understand now. I just didn't know.
Quiet.
Drina, you're up next. Or Drena.
Oh, hi. My name is Drina Anderson. I'm a Janelle resident. So I'm kind of throwing ideas around. Is there any way that Janelle could go under the Castlegar fire jurisdiction for response for the kilometers? Because even if we're looking at the kilometers with the underwriters, Janelle to Trail is 15 kilometers and Janelle to Castlegar is 13 kilometers. So like Castlegar would actually be quicker in terms of response time. Yeah. Anyways, that's my question.
So we have a mutual aid agreement with that the underwriters is aware of with Castlegar. Castlegar wouldn't be there quicker because they would have a turnout time and a travel time because they're a paid-on-call response, right? And so they wouldn't be any faster than the service we're providing through Trail now.
Okay, Dino.
Hello, I'm from Janelle, resident for the last 3 years. And my question is, why can't we start accepting applications now, start the training 2 months prior? Because if we wait till May, now we have potential people that could have been trained 2 to 3 months already. And that means 2 to 3 months sooner to be fully licensed, be a firefighter, or to sit on a truck.
I'll answer that on behalf of the directors. This is a major decision that we're making right now. And we don't want to make a decision on the fly, to use an expression. We want staff to come back to show us the implications of reversing our decision, which means how much is it going to cost us, because we have already approved our budget. So how much is it going to cost us? What is the fire hall not going to do within their existing budget? And what are the far-ranging impacts of that? So if we were to take your applications and put them all in, and then in May decide that we're not going to open up the fire hall and that we're continuing with closing, that would be a lot of staff time processing the paperwork. Plus, that would be a major disappointment to those people who thought that they were going to be enrolled and not enrolled. I'm sorry for the delay, but we do have to allow staff to come back with how it would work. So that's why the applications, the names can be taken in, but the applications cannot be processed. Dan?
Okay.
Okay, Brianna, you're up.
Hi there. A question regarding, I guess, the budgeting and stuff like that. It's somewhat of a known thing around the community that the paid fire hall in Trail, their employees make well over 100,000 a week. Is there a possibility of dipping into, or not, sorry, 100,000 a week, 100,000 salary? Is there any possibility of dipping into the Trail Fire Hall's budget in order to allocate some funds towards Janelle, where the community is facing this huge detriment?
Yeah.
Brianna, it's a single service. So the taxpayers from across the region, from Rossland to Fruitvale to Janelle, are all paying into a single service. The reason that there are trail firefighters that are making more in terms of salary is because they are career firefighters, fully trained and available 24/7. That's why Janelle has consistent 24/7 service available to it in terms of response.
Okay. You had one more question? Oh, look, no, there's a guy behind you. Sorry.
Mostly to Chief Derby.
Your name, please?
John Vanden, I'm a resident of Janelle. If you screen all the applicants and you approve somebody, can you get them trained in the 1 year conditional? Or are we gonna have a bunch of applicants that you approve and they're still not trained enough to?
So our normal procedure is to, we normally start our intake process kind of mid to late spring. And then with the recruit class starting September 1st. That's what we've been working towards last number of years. This isn't so much about fully trained, you know, like from the underwriter's perspective. That's not
trained enough to keep fire all open, that's all.
But our system would keep that rating. It's my opinion that our system would keep the rating if we have those members coming into the training program and consistently being there.
Do you have training facilities now that you could put them in immediately?
Right.
Or are you gonna say, well, it's gonna be 4 months before you can get training? No, that's my concern. So you get all these applicants, you personally approve their application, and then we can't provide them training in time to keep it all open.
So our training system, we have, which is consistent across the provinces, you have trainers within the hall that are trained to deliver the training and move them through. We have that in place in our stations, right?
We're talking about a fire hall that's on the edge of closing.
Yeah, that's part of why this is a bigger decision, is to figure out how we would support that to make it be successful. Like, what I'm hearing today is bring back a staff report for the elected officials that outlines how we would do this. And then with their endorsement, then we'd start delivering, right? We've got, time is going to be a challenge for us from the perspective of availability of people over the summer months, as we, you know, like all these factors will come into where my mind is spinning on bringing this forward. I would say that time of year and individual firefighter availability to attend training are going to be as big a challenge as our ability is to provide the training, if that makes sense. So we need to do it together if we're going to do it.
Well, my fear is that you'll turn around and say, well, we still don't have enough applicants to train. You know, which so 1 year isn't much. And, you know, again, if it's the decision, not even meet till May, we've got to already hustle then. And so again, when you're going through the applications, is anybody, let's say Andrew, going to give any input at all, or is it going to be completely on you to say yay or nay?
So our onboarding process has included representation from the local stations, but it's not individual to the local stations. So to answer your question about...
So we have your 33 applications right now. We have no say in it at all.
No, I didn't say that. I said it includes representation from the local station, right? Like, so we do that together. We're not doing it in a silo from here. And from an integrity perspective, like I know we don't know each other well, but I'm a man of my word. And if I'm going to try and, if the direction is to do something, I'm going to damn well do it. Right. And so that's not going to be the issue here.
So you wouldn't have any objection to somebody, say, from the Save Janelle Fire Hall Committee to sit in with you while you review all these applications? You know, and so you could justify why that guy doesn't apply. He's not eligible. That's our fear, or my fear anyways. You get 33 applications and you say, no, I'll only accept 5 of them or 3 of them or something.
And I'm not going to, what I can say is what we've done is we've had involvement from our local stations in the past. I'm challenged by this. I have heard nothing from Andrew for over the last month in regards to what recruiting efforts they have been doing. As you can imagine, as chief of the department, there are a lot of questions I have, right? And so I have a responsibility to manage the entire service, and I need to balance.
I'm gonna close this off because it's turning into a discussion point versus a question and answer.
Make the point.
No, it was heard.
No, we understand your concerns. I think by the fact that, I'm just trying to clarify, the fact that the directors here have told staff that to come back with a plan on how to make it work is monumental, because we're reversing a decision. So potentially, okay. And the key word is this takes staff time and it involves recruiting, the training and everything else. Okay, so I have some online questions that I have to do, but I'll get back to you. Don't let me forget, okay?
Just referring to the online questions, those are the same people that already asked questions. So I would suggest we minimize the number of questions that are being asked. We're going around in circles here.
Okay, thank you. Ashley, if you have another question, it has to be specific and it has to be a question on the motion. Thank you.
Sure, thank you very much. Talking about the plan specifically, I'm wondering about sort of an exit strategy. If it turns out this fails, will the plan include something to help ease Janelle citizens into a different phase? Is there a possibility of talking about an income qualifying subsidy to help support people with their insurance changes?
I don't think that question can be answered until the staff come back with their results. Brianna?
This might be the same thing. You guys have been talking about historically how you do the recruitment, and I believe that the enrollment happens in the fall. If this is all successful, would they likely be looking at like redoing how they do recruitment or how they do application procedures, just because historically it clearly hasn't been working if it's a struggle across the regions?
I understand your question, and I think that'll be resolved with the staff coming back with an answer on how this will move forward. Kyra?
Thank you.
Hi. Harkening back to what I said about the China Creek concern, has there been any conversation with the RDKB? Once again, I can only provide anecdotal information, but I've been reporting here for 20 years. And in my experience, the ambulance service tends to show up, and I love our paramedics. I am not in any way disrespecting them, but BCAS has left them underserved. And so in my experience, the fire department is who you count on when things go awry. They tend to show up half an hour, 45 minutes before an ambulance does. So have you guys considered a conversation with BCAS to increase services to Janelle? Should we shut down the fire hall? Like I really, really don't want the fire hall to be shut down. But I feel like during COVID, there was a lady whose husband had a heart attack, and all of our firefighters were out fighting. It was during the heat dome. They were out fighting fires. And this woman waited for 45 minutes for the ambulance to show up.
I'm sorry, Kyra, I'm muting you. You have to keep it to a question specific. The only thing I gathered from that is, are we working with BC Ambulance? You know, that's a question that staff will have to look at. Next question in the back.
My question, just for anyone, will you be able to consider the funding that the NDP government is going to give to volunteer fire halls when you're considering how to continue funding Janelle? Or is that something that's too far away to be considered?
Again, like funding hasn't been a driver in this decision, right? And so the one that jumps to mind for me as a concern is Colonel Gear, and I mentioned that already, because we, just that could be an increased cost. We were a recipient of $40,000. We were a recipient of $40,000 from the grant opportunity for 2025. That's going towards our training grounds that will help train all of our firefighters.
Okay. But the one that I referred to is the one that was in the Casper newspaper, which was last.
That's the one I'm speaking to.
Oh, okay. The one I was talking about $500,000, and it mentioned Janelle and Warfield, and so I'm just wondering if maybe that one is that you knew. I understand that he's in the budget.
We were a recipient of that grant. The Regional District Cooney Boundary made an application towards the grant that you're referring to.
Oh, okay.
Off the top of my head, it was $130,000 or $140,000 that the regional district got. That is specific to. We'll get some Christina Lake, Big White, Beaver Dam.
Okay, last question.
Hi, I'm Don. You can go. I have a question regarding the qualifications to become a fireman. What I'm concerned about is I've done some inquiries and years ago you were, required CPR, stuff like this, and then, you're on board training and stuff. Since then, my understanding is it's qualifications where you have to become a first responder and other things. So where did it change? Because I recall that one of the past fire chiefs approached the regional to say, don't do it. Don't make them first responders. They're firemen. They're volunteer firemen. So when this changed, it maybe changed how the people want to volunteer and qualify, because the first responders are not just first responders for accident scenes and everything else. Unfortunately, we have a crisis in this town like every town does. The homeless, the drug addicts, everything else. So when you're a first responder, you are responding to them. In McDonald's, passed out to do your thing. Is this fair to volunteer firemen that want to be a volunteer to help our community? Is that part of the recommendations that you have to do that? Or is there a gray area where you can become a fireman? You're not quite a first responder yet, it's your choice, or is it mandatory? The only reason I say this, Drew, please, is I had a close friend who worked for Trimac. He quit and he became a paramedic. 8 months, 9 months of training, down in Victoria, everything else. He was on his practicum. His practicum was to go up to the Gulch, to the crack house, to do their dishes, feed them, do everything else, and watch them smoke crack and do dope, everything. He said, I can't do this. He quit, and he went back to Trimac. Unfortunately, it's hard on paramedics, hard on firemen.
I'm sorry,
That's part of the qualifications.
So the question is,
responder and the rest of the hierarchy.
Yes, okay.
Rules and ranks, is it part of becoming a volunteer fireman? Is it mandatory?
Yes, okay, thank you.
Paid on call, not volunteer, paid on call.
Yeah, paid on call, sorry.
And firefighters, because we have men and women. And we train all of our members to the first responder for two reasons. One is to do first responder calls. Like that's become the norm in the fire service. Going back to your question around when, 80s, 90s, that was really when it changed. And so we train firstly to have first responder skills to respond to if one of our firefighters gets hurt, that I can look after my partner. Secondly, and we're just training them to our pay on call to the base level first responder training, which is essentially the equivalent of the old 183 that a lot of us do. And so that's the core level that we train our pay on call members to, is to be able to support should a member go down, but also respond to those calls in our community.
Okay, hi Linda, since you're from Area A,
Area B.
Area B.
Thank you. No, that's it.
Long meeting.
Area B director, there we go.
Thank you, Chair, and through the chair. Just want to closing remark to the folks that are here and that are online. Thank you for coming today and for your ongoing efforts to recruit and retrain the firefighters for Janelle that we need for the insurance rating, but for the protection of the community over, most importantly, with the backup of the trail station once people are trained. But I just want to say the reason I put forward number 3 on that list of right there, the conditional operation, was because, just to be totally clear here, because currently the motion is to close at the end of June. We have to first then give direction to staff now to change routes as our chair has mentioned. So that had to come first, the horse before the carriage. We have to do that because it's currently in law that's going to be closed. But we're working toward changing that. So we have to get staff direction to, which we've done through number 3. But I'm not backing down on my asking for the 1 year after that that's once, we'll see what happens, because it's not up to me, it's a democratic vote. So anyway, that's my comment. That's all I wanted to say.
I do have another question.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just a little baffled by one thing. Is it possible that the applications could go out just as part of the screening process, like maybe I'm gonna get one and look at it, and by the time I'm through it, holy smokes, I can't do this. So 20 becomes 19 and so on. Not involving our staff, but at least those who have expressed an interest in volunteering. Is there any harm in giving them the application? And then after our May decision, they can come in to you and Aaron from Janelle or whatever. Is there any harm in at least starting that process? I'm not sure. Maybe there's a reason.
So
Let me put you on the spot there, Dan. Jump in.
I'm taking on my feet. So the implication is staff time, right? And so if the direction from the
Okay, I'm
committee,
sorry, just to clarify my question, no staff time. Give people an application. We stop there.
yeah,
The upside is the applications are ready if the decision is to go. The downside is you could have 25 people who have taken the time to fill out the application, and then the fire hall goes through closure.
Yeah.
And they,
That's the choice to fill them out.
no, I know, I'm just going,
I'm offering a lead.
as the chair, I'm just trying to make sure that the upside and the downside.
from the
Nothing's
background
easy.
you have from an HR perspective, right? Like I'm thinking about this onboarding process. Like it's not just the application package. Respectfully, I don't know what commitments have been made to those that are interested. The conversation that Glenn and I have had is our first step is to meet, like, as an idea is to host a meeting to say, whoever's interested, come to a meeting. So they all get the same information at the same time and then give out the
Okay, and I
applications.
think what I'm missing is the application process involves our HR department.
It typically hasn't. I'm just thinking like from a.
Okay, sorry. I leave it
vetted through.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's, if I may, Chair, one thing, that's why I said what I said about the procedure, because I knew what Dan and I talked about this.
I don't know if it's talked
So,
about.
yeah, so just thank you for bringing it up.
Okay. I'm letting you talk last and then that's it. Oh, there's one guy in the back. I'm sorry.
He's had his hand up.
I thought we had a last question.
My apologies. I didn't see your hand, but everybody else did.
You mentioned earlier about the 3 stages of training, outside, inside.
Exterior, interior, full service.
Okay, so I spent 25 years in the auxiliary in the RCMP. I have a pretty good health, but I'm 60 plus. Why couldn't I, and I'm legally allowed to drive anything on the road, why couldn't I join, show up, be outside, drive the truck? If one guy is only there, there's 2 of us. At least we can get a handle on it to begin with.
No,
I have a pretty good health.
No. And so normally we train people to be a firefighter first because you need to know what the firefighters need if you're driving the apparatus, right? Like from the pumps and pumping. So we don't train, like there was a question, like make somebody a captain when we were in the town hall meeting. You got to become a firefighter first and then it works through training. And so it's an indirect answer to your question that if people are going to join and become a member, there's a structure and the structure isn't unique to us.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, but earlier you're thinking his comment, this question was that you weren't sure about the 60-year-old. You're kind of on the fence there.
No, I said I would consider it, right?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. If you considered somebody like myself, and I would continuously stay an outside person or driver and assist outside. I wouldn't be going in and you could keep your main guys going in further and train. And if you didn't need me anymore, at least I helped out what I can.
Okay, thank you.
I heard you.
Yeah. A couple of them. I guess most of the stuff I read feels like they've been covered by us to the rest questions. The big one that I'm still puzzled on, and I don't know if you'll be able to answer this or not, but if the decision to close our hall was not made about money and budgets, then why is it actually closing? Whether we have 5 members, 10 members, 15 members, insurance ratings are affected. Why are we putting into that? Long-term savings.
Capacity to operate. Like when we only have 5 members, like
nobody shows up.
I've heard the analogy that if you were operating several stores and one store didn't have staff and didn't have people coming on a regular basis, you would make the same decision, right? And so
Profit-based business is.
I've said I've heard the analogy, I didn't, right? And so, there's decades have got us to the decision that we made. I'd go back to a comment that Dave made that, was like, if this is the community needed to step up, good for the community. Look forward to working with it. Pardon me?
Wait, no, I'm letting you finish off and then I can comment to people.
There's a bunch of questions about the training and how we get to where we need to be. What level of training are you going to need to see out of any new potential new recruits within this 12-month window to see this as a success? Like, do we need your exterior qualifications?
I'll jump in here. We have to stay with this motion. It's the conditional operation of the fire station. The conditional operation plan to be developed by staff and brought back to the May meeting. The 1 year has been postulated, but it's not in the condition. Okay? So we have to give the staff the time to come back with a realistic plan on how it would work and the cost involved in that.
Okay. And a question on the budget side, because I guess it was, I saw in one of those conversation things online, somebody asked a question of the canal station was in the current 5-year financial plan. Is that financial sounded to me like the answer to that was yes, in the current financial 5-year plan, continued operation of Janelle was already part of that. That's true.
So because we were going to keep in this process, we were going to keep the Janelle station open till the end of June of 2025, and then closing costs, whatever. The budget wasn't amended for 2025 in consideration of the Janelle fire station. As far as longer term, we would look at changes longer term if this kept flowing. If the decision is to change, then the 5-year financial plan always changes and rolls year over year. That's the specifics to 2025. Really, the other part of the 5-year financial plan is looking at more the bigger picture stuff on capital and building maintenance and apparatus. And those would be considerations that we need to look at longer term.
Okay. I just part I'm trying to get clarified as far as how this could impact other services, if this gets reversed or changed, is the money's already there, it sounds like. I don't see where it impacted the.
I want to be clear that there's no other services. We have one service, one department.
Yeah, exactly, but they keep it.
So I got to just get back to that. It goes back to the staff coming back with the implication, okay, to the fire hall budget and everything else, including staff time. So some of the questions are you're asking us or you're asking staff to give the answer before they've had a chance to analyze and do the analysis. Okay.
I'm shocked we're at this point without this analysis existing already.
Okay, I'm calling the question period for public meeting closed, and since there's nothing in camera, we have a motion to adjourn.
Sure.
Andy, Ally, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. I'd like to thank us all for taking the time with us and looking forward to working with this in the future.
Thank you. And this is unusual. We've never dedicated a whole weekend to one item. So, yeah.
Done that.
Good job.